Jocelyn Turner, and it's such a pleasure to be with you all tonight. I hope everyone had a great, wonderful, safe, happy, fun Christmas, because all of that is what my experience was on Christmas. Dr. Kane, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing just fine, Miss Turner. Can't complain about anything. Nobody listens anyway, so I just stopped
There
complaining.
you go. There you go. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Dr. Kane, because we have some good listeners on the show with us tonight. I
Hmm.
mean, I think so anyway. I mean, who else to talk to? Who else to be a better listener outside of your family? Okay, let's face it, some of us need somebody instead of our family
Right.
to be a good listener. So we are pleased to have Shirley James, also known as Transformation Shirley. OMG.
Whoa. Okay.
Welcome, Transformation Shirley. How are you doing this evening?
I am great, Miss Turner. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I am great. Had a wonderful, wonderful Christmas and looking forward to 2022.
All righty. I'm glad you said that because that's what we're going to talk about tonight. 2022, what are you going to do? Also joining us on the show is Carlise Charlotte. Did I pronounce it right, Carlise? She had to give me a little lesson right before the show started. Welcome.
Yes, ma'am, you pronounced it correctly. Thank you. It's an honor
Welcome,
to
welcome,
be
welcome.
able to have the privilege to be on your show and to bring what I do to the table for 2022 to help transform lives for the people that are actually in need but are in denial that they are in need.
There you go. And so tonight, I know that our guests, rather, our listeners will learn a lot as they always do. Dr. Kane and I try to bring conversations that we think feature topics rather, that we think people need. They just don't know it. Wouldn't you say that sometimes when it comes to having conversations about certain things, people just don't know it? So tonight, as we think about ending 2021, and beginning a new year, we thought it would be a good opportunity to bring life coaches to the line. Life coaches. Now, if you're like me, I may know a little bit, but I'd like to give each of our guests an opportunity to tell me, what is a life coach? I'll start with you, Transformation Shirley.
Okay, well, thank you. A life coach is someone who has the skills and the expertise to direct an individual in the direction they need to go so that they can receive or they can become the person that they want to be. So a lot of times we have people who come and say, I want this, that, and the other. Actually, we have to address the need first, and then we can redirect them by fulfilling the needs in their life to get what they want. So my job as a life coach is to provide that redirection so that they can achieve what they want to achieve and become who they want to become.
That's awesome. And Carlise, how about you? What do you say about being a life coach? What is a life coach from your perspective?
A life coach to me is a person that not only give guidance but also help a person, just like Miss James spoke as well. That we're helping people transform their lives and also trying to help them get to whatever desired dream or goal that they may have had or have and still trying to reach it, but somewhere somehow it has been unattainable for them. And it's not only just, there's a friendship involved with it, there is accountability involved with it. So that person is not going through the process alone. We're there to help them go through the process and give them steps to make sure they stay on path, to stay on course, but then also help find the corrective measures to find out what helped them come off course if they've fallen off course.
Thank you. And we talked at the beginning, I was teasing in terms of being a good listener, and that's what I look at life coaches as. But what qualities or skills should a life coach have to be successful? Carlise, I'll start with you this time.
Effective communicating skills and being a great listener.
All right. All right. And Shirley, is there anything, excuse me, transformation, Shirley, is there anything you'd like to, I feel I should
No, you
put
don't have to do that.
transformation in front of it.
You don't have to do that. We're just talking tonight. So I agree with Carlise that being an effective communicator, being a masterful listener, we're not here to do the work for you. We are here to guide you. And so, in order to do that, we have to put on our listening ears and really listen effectively. And then we pull on our expertise to help you to develop that plan that will help you to get to the other side. So to me, those are the skills that are really, really important. It's the know-how, it's the theory, it's all of that all packaged up in one. And an effective life coach should be able to help you to achieve your goals that together you all will put together.
And that's great because as you were talking, I was thinking about people who, really just not sure which direction they want to go in. So do you, my background is public health. And so I'm just wondering, do life coaches specialize in any particular area in terms of relationships or health and wellness, or, maybe even some leadership or organizational development? If so, which area do you focus on? And either of you can answer that.
I focus mine on spiritual growth and finding your purpose.
Okay.
And that came about earlier this year, post-COVID, quote unquote, even though we're still in COVID. Mm-hmm. I decided to take a challenge to be a small group leader at my church and then begin to minister and mentor to women to help them move past life through difficulties. And for me, that's how it started. Also, to add to that, I took my past life experiences that I was able to overcome and use tools with that, along with other teachings and learnings and reading, to bring that to the table to be able to help other people find their purpose, find their career path, find whatever relationship that may have been broken, whether it was marriage, friendships, male, female, it doesn't matter, because we all have a journey and a path, but sometimes we just get stuck and we don't know how to find it, or we lose our way, or we get complacent. And most of the time, again, like I said, that starts with life challenges. And how do you get unstuck from life challenges?
So when you say, and Shirley, I'll give you a chance to answer, but just to follow up on, piggyback on what you were saying. So you said from the spiritual aspect. So does that mean that if it's your work is only limited, say, with the faith community, or not necessarily?
No, ma'am. My work is limited to anyone that is in need of help, because I'm not judgmental. I'm not judgmental at all. I just take everything, put it on the table once you give it to me, and then we just dissect it all. Because somewhere in there, you've either had peace before in your life and you've lost peace and you're trying to get your peace back. So where do we start to make you back healthy again, to move forward to get your peace?
I'm glad you mentioned a pandemic, because, and we can talk about that later, but that definitely, it put us in a place or space that none of us had ever experienced before. Shirley, how about you? Do you specialize in any particular area?
I do specialize in health and wellness. That is my focus. That is my primary focus. I stay in my lane. I'm not what is that saying? A jack of all trades and master of none. I don't think you can be effective unless you are able to hone in on a specific, like Carlise has just determined what her area of expertise is. And so for me, it is health and wellness, and it is very personal with me. Having had family members who have just suffered some very serious illnesses brought on by lifestyle. And as I watched and I observed all of that, I determined that I did not want that for me. So for me, health and wellness, as a health and wellness coach, this is really personal, is the foundation for me. And so I know that transformation starts, it's a mindset, and then it just works it all the way through. So my challenge a lot of times is to help individuals to know, yes, I know you want to be healthier. I know you want to achieve certain goals. I know you want to live this life of wellness. But we start with the mind, and we transform that mind, and then we can work on other aspects of their coaching sessions.
Transformation, Shirley. I got to bring it back to that, Shirley. So have you seen, and I know Carlise, I'm sorry, Carlise, I'm combining your first and last name. Did you notice that? Carlise, you mentioned the pandemic, but have you seen either of you seen people make drastic shifts in their careers since the pandemic, or even in other areas of their life since the pandemic?
The careers were one, because you were used to getting out, mingling, going to work, getting fresh air, pretty much living your life, doing what you want to do. When pandemic hit, we had to then become isolated, and we were confined. And for some of the people that I've been speaking with and dealing with, it started to bring back memories of bad things, or their mindset changed, and they were stuck. They couldn't get past the unknown, and also trying to deal with all the bad things that were starting to settle in within them during the pandemic, because life had completely changed. So you were forced to be home. You were forced to really start thinking about things that you really had not thought about, that could have been hurtful or anything from the past, because you were always doing your normal day-to-day, going in and out. So you didn't have time to think about it. So I think I feel that when we are forced to do something, it puts us in a situation to either not deal with something and continue to have that baggage, or you find how to move forward and how do I fix it. So I've been coming in contact with people that want to fix it, because they're not in a good place, which make them not healthy. And it becomes psychological. It's more of a psychological thing. And you have to try to make that mind switch of mind over matter. Mind over matter is like one of the biggest things in life that some of us, we don't want to deal with it. We just, Dr. Kane has me laughing. I'm sorry. Ma'am.
Be quite frank with you, I am intrigued because one of the questions that I was waiting to, one of our listeners kind of tweeted the question or chimed in on the question. So what's the difference between a life coach and a friend? And that's why I was looking trying to discern the difference between a life coach and a good friend. Or do you become, as a life coach, do you become that good friend?
It's hard to keep the personal out of it, because that person instills trust in their life coach. So before you even really become a life coach, you've already probably been discussing things with people that were your friends, and there just was not a pay associated with it.
Okay. Miss Miss Transformation, Shirley?
Yes.
I'll leave out the transformation. I just had to
okay. One time. Okay.
One time. I won't bother you more with that one. So what's your thoughts on that, Miss Shirley?
Well, I think to piggyback on what Carlise said, I think that as a coach, it's just natural that you're going to become a friend. You want to have that type of a relationship, but I think there comes a point where you have to put a period at the end of whatever that discussion is. We cannot allow life coaching / friendship. I think there has to be a slight difference, even though you want to be friendly, you want to be engaging, you want to do all of those things. But sometimes friends will not tell you the hard truth, or they will not confront you and hold you to your commitment. And that's my role. So yes, I want to be your friend, but in this case, friendship stops when the lines get blurred and we get off track. So definitely I want to be your friend, but I'm going to hold you accountable. So if I can be both, that is great.
So since we mentioned commitment and accountability, so obviously we're coming up on this new year. That's one of the reasons that we thought we'd go ahead and bring this type of show. Should we make resolutions, New Year's resolutions, or set goals for the new year? Or should we look at stuff maybe in a shorter term, a time period, like maybe quarterly versus annual? Miss T, I'll go with you first.
Okay. Well, I think there's pros and cons to resolutions versus goals. And so for me, I would say not resolutions unless you have a goal attached to it. You follow what I'm saying? So just a resolution to just put out a resolute statement of I'm going to do this with no goal attached to it is probably going to be self-sabotaging, because most people don't have the self-discipline to do what they need to do to arrive at wherever that end point is. So to just make a resolution and not know how you're going to fulfill that, I'd say no. Unless you make a resolution, I'm going to do this, and attach to it not a checklist, but a SMART goal that says this is how it's going to be achieved. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, and Miss Charlotte, what about yourself?
For myself, I actually do have goals set for 2022, along with a journey that I have invited people to go on with me, because we don't stick to resolutions. We say we're going to do a New Year's resolution. So do we stick to it? The answer is normally no. We may start out the first quarter of the year and then somehow we fall off. So for me, in 2022, the challenge that I want to give people is to take the journey with me to find your purpose, which would be Breakthrough's life class on finding your purpose. Because until you know, if you don't know, so until you know what that is, it'll better help you to succeed the rest of the year out.
Well, I'd be lucky if I made it through the first quarter, but since you gave me that much credit,
well, let me just say this, Dr. Kane. Most people, just to piggyback on what Carlise just said, most people will make a resolution January 1st. And about 8%, that's what research shows, 8% of those people will actually stick to it till the end of the year.
Right.
That means you have another 92% of people who are, what are they doing, right?
Right.
And so, right. And then most people, again, if we're looking at the numbers, by the end of January have already fallen off.
Yep.
So, so having a plan like you're talking about, Charlize, that is wonderful. Wonderful.
And I came up with this when I wrote my book, but I had to wait to execute it at the right time. So what not a better time than 2022, January 11th for 8 weeks? Because even within my group with the ladies that I mentor to at the church, I'll pick like certain reading plans for us to read on YouVersion in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Some are committed, and it was, a matter of fact, it was the book of Proverbs, 31 days. We started December 1st. Some have fallen off. So commitment is a challenge. So you either challenge yourself and stick to it so that you can see the change manifest, or you won't see anything because you gave up. And I don't believe in giving up. I don't believe in giving up on myself. I don't believe in giving up on a person that's in dire need of help, because there is always a reward at the end. And I want to try my best to help you get that reward at the end, because you deserve it.
Do you talk about the reward?
Do we? It depends on what is whatever your goal is and what you're wanting to manifest. Is whatever your personal thing is. Mm-hmm. It could be a job. It could be just any type of blessing that you want manifested. It could be something that you could have had, I believe in journaling. It could be something that you would have written in your journal maybe 2 years ago. And we know that God is not going to deliver it until he know that it's time, or that we know that it can be handled at the time. But until then, each person has their own personal goal or whatever it may be that they are believing for manifestation for.
Okay.
So should we have, because not everybody have maybe access to a life coach. What about an accountability coach?
A life coach and accountability is the same person.
That's actually what I want to hear. Okay, so what advice would you give people on how to get started on, delving into the life coach arena? How would you, if I told you, hey, I need someone to help me along, and I may not even know the term life coach, but now that you're on the program, I do. But I need someone that I need to seek to help me along with progressing in my life. What would you tell them to do? Anybody?
The first step is making the first step, and that's finding the help, and you're coming out of denial.
Absolutely. And I would just say also finding a person with the expertise in the area that you want. So for instance, if someone came to me and they said they needed spiritual coaching and so forth and so on, I'm not your person. Okay. So I would then refer them to Carlise because that's her area of expertise. If someone came to me and they said, you know what, I need coaching on finances, or I need relationship coaching, or it just goes on and on because there's probably 30 or more different areas of professional coaching. So the main thing is to find a professional certified person that can help you, that's skilled in the area, that has the knowledge and expertise, and make sure you connect with the right person. So therefore, you may have to do a little work, because you're going to have to do work in the process, but some work up front to identify who's the right person to help me.
Well, that raises the point.
You don't go to your mechanic for medical advice, right?
You showed up.
Well, I do a little of both. I am a jack of all trades and a master of none. But I would like to ask this before I get off of Ms. Turner, let you go on ahead. So you guys don't have a yellow pages of how to look these people up. So I would, again, I go back to where would I start as a person who has no clue? I mean, what would is there a referral service that I'm not aware of, or where would I start?
Well, Google is everybody's friend.
Enemy.
And when you Google life coaching, I'm going to use this as an example. Either I'm going to come up first at the top of the list, or Miss Shirley is going to come up at the top of the list. That's pretty much how it works. And then recommend you go and visit that person's website to see what all they have to offer. And each business or each business brand should have their bio and what they specialize in. And then from there, it should tell you what plan type you should be on, or what plan types that brand brings to the table, whether it be group, individual, relationship, just anything. All of that information should be available on that person's website, along with some reviews, because the reviews is really what gets us where we need to be. That word of mouth and reviews.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So Shirley, I want to get back to you, and I promise, ladies, I'm not going to make it about Jocelyn tonight, but I have to go there a little bit. And poor Dr. Kane, as my trusted medical person over the years, have had to help me endure this. So you say you specialize in health and wellness. Now we know, I know, all of us know, a lot of people are going to say, well, this time next year, I want to be 20 pounds lighter. I want to stop smoking. I want to become a vegetarian, whatever the case may be. what are some of the areas that you find that people want more related to health and wellness? What types of things are people coming to you for more? And again, to piggyback on what Dr. Kane started, other than calling you, how do you suggest that they get started?
Well, most people want a transformation externally. They want to look good. They want to drop the weight. They want to drop 20 pounds in 20 days. That's what most people come to me saying. That would be you. Most people want something instant. They want an instant transformation. And so that's where generally it starts with me having that discussion. Okay, how are we going to get to where you need to be? And then I would set up a 90-day transformation goal sheet. And we work together on 90-day increments throughout the year. So every 90 days, we're refocusing, we're checking off, seeing where we are and where we need to be, and tweaking that plan. But for me, most of my clients want to know, how can I drop this weight? What can I do? What do you have that will help me? What can you recommend? That's generally the way the conversation starts with me. And of course, it's my job to then take that conversation and go back, starting with the mindset. We got to get your mind in the game. It's not just a matter of getting the weight off or a new health plan or a new meal plan. You know, a lifestyle change is just that. It's a lifestyle change. And so that's my goal, is to help to redirect the conversation so that we can have long-term sustainable success, not just a quick fix.
Yeah, and both of you, the same thing. I mean, you both are coming from the same way. You got to look within first. Yes. Even though outwardly you may want to look a certain way, but you got to start within. And so, Carlise, I think about people who, you know, all of us are in groups, have friends or whatever, and I'm in different groups of people who we communicate with each other. And, you know, as we talk about making changes in our life, I can honestly admit, not too often do we talk about the spirituality part of it. You know, spiritually, how do we include that or address that in our lives that can sometimes help the other areas? You know, a couple of weeks ago, or we've been talking about, and in previous shows, we talked about gang prevention. We talked about mental health. And so I see that some mental health issues that people who have mental health issues rather, could potentially benefit from a life coach, because you all, both of you mentioned, you know, started from within. Am I right?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
So then let's talk about, again, to piggyback on what I think Dr. Kane kind of talked about earlier, and really, and I'm sure some of our listeners, and I know I'll admit it, what's the difference between a life coach and a therapist? Is there a difference? I mean, I know you have different licensures, but what's the difference?
You can start me, Shirley.
Okay, so a therapist, I am not a therapist. A therapist is a medical professional who's able to help you to go deep, either on a subconscious, unconscious level, whether that's something that happened in your past, and to bring that to the forefront that may be impeding the progress you're trying to achieve. But they are licensed clinical medical professionals, and that I am not. So a life coach does not have to have that level of education or certifications, degrees. I think it's good if you happen to find one that's able to embody both. But most of the times you're going to see a sharp line separating life coaches from the medical professional.
Thank you.
And not only that, she's very accurate, but also a therapist, they do insurance billing, and that's how they receive compensation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's completely two different things. Whereas we can get our certification through an institute or a long time person that's been a life coach that offer classes for the certification. So that's one of the
Okay.
differences as well.
So then let's get back to, again, we're about to start a new year. Our theme for our topic tonight was 2022. What are you going to do? So why do you think that people have a hard time setting goals?
The fear
I
of
mean, we all know that this is a new year start. And I remember being at work and people asked me before the end of the year, so what are your resolutions? One of my friends, I won't say her name, but she never asked what was my resolution. She asked me, what are your goals for the new year? And quite honestly, I didn't know how to get started by asking. I was used to those resolutions. I want to lose weight. I want to make more money. But really, why do you think people have a hard time setting goals?
I think I feel that we may fall off. It's not attainable. I'm trying to reach too high. And sometimes it could be the feeling of rejection and acceptance. Because if you fail, who's going to hold you accountable? And if your friends are holding you accountable, you don't want to disappoint them. But at the same time, I think take it back to that shame, that disappointment.
But when you said who's gonna, I think sometimes that when it comes to, again, I'll just personalize it. The whole losing the weight, for instance, my goal is to lose 20 pounds. Then is the hurt and shame then my self-inflicted? I mean, it's not that somebody else is saying, "Oh, you didn't lose it." It's I'm saying, "Oh, you didn't lose it by the end of the year." Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you. Well, I'm going to ask you a question. When you doing this for yourself, are you inviting someone else in to hold you accountable? Are you sharing your plans with that person? Because
most of the time, most often, it's just a personal thing that I just make a decision to do, either, lose weight or travel more, whatever. And then by the end of the year, if you write those things down, and these are some goals I want to do. I want to take one trip a quarter, and then by the end of the year, I've only done two. Just the whole thought of why is it that I make these goals? First, am I doing it? First of all, am I setting my goals too high?
they can either be set. I think any goal is reachable once you set your mind to it. It's just putting the focus and the energy on what you're wanting to do and staying committed. It's staying committed.
So where does the fear of failure come in at?
Some people may feel the feel of failure if they shared that goal with someone else. And then, you know how we do, we all get together, we start talking, and then we start getting all those questions asked. And we may have an answer, we may not have an answer.
Are you recommending not to share it with your friends?
If you have a friend that you can trust that's not going to be in the judgment zone, I would say have a friend that's going to help you be accountable. But sometimes, again, some things we just choose to do alone so that we don't have to face that part of what I did not complete.
Mm-hmm. And if I might say, Ms. Turner, you asked earlier, you said earlier, about setting goals and maybe just not knowing what to do. That was my story. For years, I can't tell you how many years it was. I just remember at least 15 or 20 years, I would sit down on the 31st of December. January 1st did not find me without my checklist. I would write it down. It would be checklist. It would just be a list. And I would write down what I wanted to do, where I wanted to travel, who I wanted in my life, what I wanted to do, certification, finish up this, do that, buy the house, do the car, whatever it was. I wrote it all down in a checklist format. And then I would put it in I remember one time I had this tall vase on the top of the bookshelf. So I wrote it down and I would put it in the vase, and this is for real. But I never went back and looked at it until the end of the year, because I didn't know what I was doing is where I'm trying to take this. So I wrote a checklist, which is not SMART goal setting, but I did that year after year after year. And then it was like a ritual that I would go to the top of the bookcase and I would pull out that list, that checklist, and I would critique myself. And to your point, Ms. Turner, I would feel bad because there was a lot of stuff on there I didn't accomplish. I didn't necessarily share it with anyone. I didn't share it with a friend or anybody, but I just felt some kind of way. So what did I do? I would rewrite my list, and maybe 2 or 3 things I was able to accomplish. Everything else, I would just carry it forward to the next year, and so forth and so on. And during the time, my background is in HR. So as an HR person, I'm ashamed to say, but it took me many years into my career before I learned about SMART goals. And then even then, until I really learned how to write one that was specific and measurable, attainable, Carlise, and something that's realistic. There's no need in me saying I'm going to drop 50 pounds by March 1st. That's not going to happen. So it wasn't even realistic, And then it has to be time bound. When is it going to happen? So I was just making my checklist, but I didn't really know how. So back to the question, why do people maybe not do it? I think they don't write their goals because they just, don't know how to write the goals. And then it follows on is, if I write these goals, I'm holding myself accountable, and how's it going to make me feel when I fall off the wagon? Who's going to be my accountability person? Who's going to help me to get back on track? And is it really any purpose? And is there anything to this writing stuff down? Why do I have to write it down? I keep it in my head. That's what my friend, one of my friends told me for years. I would say, write your goals. And she'll say, I know you're over there writing your goals at the end of the year, kind of making fun, I know you're writing your goals. I said, yes, why don't you do the same thing? I have it in my head. I said, okay. So we agreed to disagree. But anyway, not to belabor the topic here, but I just think that there's some importance in writing the goals. It's important to know what you want, and it's important to follow a system so that you get to where you want to be.
And I tell you what, you sound just like me. Again, I would write those things down and I wouldn't go back to them. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, how do you know that you are achieving your goals if you don't go back to them? Because they're not all about just losing weight, obviously. There are other things in your life that you want to do. When you talk about, for instance, some people may want to buy a house. Some people may want to get out of debt. The pandemic took people in a direction that they never imagined. They may have depleted their savings, for example. And so one of their goals might be, I want to get out of debt, or I want to put money back in my savings account. And just really, knowing how to get started. What do you do? I like when you talked about the SMART goals, the specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based, because people don't always remember. I know my background is public health. And we always talked about and wrote those SMART goals, in terms of related to some of the activities that the health indicators that we were working towards. And if people look at their lives like that in terms of those SMART goals, and realistic, like you're not going to, well, unless you win a lottery, you're not going to, save $1 million by March 1st, right? But, in the next 10 years, you might. So to be realistic, and that's what sometimes that we don't do. We're not realistic in the way that we, as we set goals. Dr. Kane, did you have a question?
Well, actually, I'm a geriatrician by default these days. As I got older, as I told you before, as I got older, so did my patients. But a lot of them are nearing retirement, or they may already be retired. And I think all of us know it's not a good idea for us to sit around and do nothing. upon retirement. Would you recommend that they get a part-time job or start a hobby? What advice would you give to the 65 and older population that has come to you and says, "Look, I'm retired. I will be retiring. What do you think I should do?" And I'm close to that, but I guess I can use myself as an example. Anybody can take that.
I would say if you just took it to the younger age, under 65, I was gonna say everybody is retiring at different ages. So there's really anything that person can really go and do other than find a hobby. 65 and older, I would say find a hobby, but I guess let that hobby be in something that you are passionate about, that you would not mind committing to do on a regular basis, because it'll keep you going. It'll keep you out, of course, with socializing, communicating. I think once you get that age and get older, the mind still needs to be stimulated. And the best way to do that is you really can't mingle too much, but anything that will allow you, I feel, to engage in conversations that are healthy and things that you can do as a hobby that's healthy, just to still keep the mechanical skills, still going and flowing in your mind.
Well, I'll tell you, Carlise, he was talking about me. A couple of years ago, I'm not 65, but a couple of years ago, I retired from the health department. And as being a good friend that he is, he said, as though he was still my doctor or my daddy. I don't know which role he was trying to play, but I think as a medical friend, he told me, he said, "Okay, so you're about to retire." He did this months before I was retiring. He said, "So, he was telling me, you can take off 6 months, but what are you going to do after that?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, thank you for giving me 6 months to do absolutely nothing. But I have to," but then the pandemic happened, right? And so it threw me into that space again, working in health, public health. We're part of a group called the Population Health Consortium of Northeast Florida, and we've been really delving into the pandemic from different areas. And so I was that person who just wanted to sit around, but I tell you what, I could not do it. And I told Dr. Kane, I thanked him recently, and I told him, "Thank you for giving me 6 months and encouraging me to get back there, because I definitely can see the benefit of keeping your mind stimulated, because if you're not, then you could wither away. And so to find something, volunteering, or there are so many nonprofits, for example, who could use some help. Use your area of expertise. So that's the first thing that people don't know, that, okay, me, and again, I know it's not about me, understanding that your skills are transferable. And Shirley mentioned, her background she worked in HR. Well, then you're around people. You understand the dynamics of people from that aspect. Mm-hmm. Those skills can certainly transform, and I'm not speaking for you, but I can see how those skills can transfer to being a life coach, for example, because I'm sure as an HR professional, you heard it all, right?
Absolutely.
And so helping people to learn how to navigate from one place to another. I remember years ago, and I'll let you all speak on this. I remember years ago, my sister-in-law worked at the college in an area where they were doing something with assessment, where you get you do some type of assessment to determine what career goal students might want to take as they choose as their profession, for example. I can see the same thing for someone who's nearing retirement. What is it that you did at work that now you can transfer those skills to something else? Any thoughts on that? And Shirley, I just spoke for you just in terms of transition from HR.
Well, absolutely. But before I answer that question, would you mind if I just go back to the previous question? I have a little a different train of thought on whether a part-time job or hobby or both. Because one of the things we know, even from HR, sometimes it's hard to get people to prepare themselves for retirement financially. You know, there's pushback sometimes on whatever your savings plan is at work. And then you try to bring in education to help people to prepare and see what it's going to be like on the other side of having a regular paycheck. And so with all of those tools in place in the workplace, sometimes I think, and I know I have friends who, we talk, and sometimes retirement isn't what they thought it was going to be. And rather than being stressed out, and they're strong, able-bodied, smart, got it going on type individuals who have decided, I'm fit. I want to work another 2 to 3 years. It's not going to interrupt with any other type of regular income that's coming in, but I'm not able to enjoy the lifestyle that I had envisioned for myself. Or I want to travel, or I want to do something. Maybe it's a special project. And so they'll take on some part-time work for the socialization part, as Carlise said, but they also take it on just to kind of fill that spot of not having enough. And I think that's something we need to really talk about, because we have a lot of people going into retirement who are not prepared for retirement. And then there's a stark wake up call once you sign the papers with your employer, and now it's like, what am I going to do? So for those individuals, rather than being stressed out or coming to Carlise and needing some assistance spiritually to get it back together, I would say, yes, go ahead and get yourself a part-time job if that's what you want to do. No one's saying you have to, but if you do it, I think you should do it and be able to hold your head up and not be ashamed. And as far as the hobby, why not do both of them?
Well, as a clinician, one of the things, with that 15, 20 minutes of fame I get with each person during their office visit, that is one of the things that's, Ms. Turner was exactly right. And this is what I told her, fine, you're going to retire. And, I want you to kind of at 6, for the next 6 months, do, some things, just lay around, you feel the freedom of not having to go to work, feel and see how that feels to you. Say, but after 6 months, you got to get up and do something. You do not retire to die.
That's
and
right.
I have so many patients, they retire, they sit around and do nothing, and it's a slow death, because they become inactive. They lose that. Even though with the pandemic, we lost a lot of that contact. And so as far as socialization is concerned, but that was forced upon us. When we're at that retirement zone, we need to just get up, and so that you can even feel useful for yourself.
That's right.
And to your family, at least your thoughts, that you feel useful to your families. Because otherwise, if all you do is laying around, that's just what you're doing. You're waiting to die. So she was somewhat right with what I told her about 6 months, and trust me, I didn't let her anyway. I made sure I got her right back in the thick of things, and that's what she was thanking me for the other day, because I wouldn't let her just roll over and die.
Yeah, I mean, and it's something that, and it really is something that all of us know people in different areas of life. And so to really encourage our listeners that if you are in a space where you're not sure what the next step is in your life, what you're going to do in 2022, take it into consideration that we've all, not one person was not affected by the pandemic. And we're still in it, by the way. And I think Carlise said that, all of us were affected by it. But what do we do? When the conversations on television about people are not going to work, I disagree with that. I think that people were choosing other areas of work to be in. And so they thought about, what else can I do other than going checking in on someone else's job? I want to open up my own business, for example. And so really finding other things that they wanted to do. But I think that we could look at 2022 as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to experience things that you've never done before because you've not seen 2022. It's a new space, it's a new time. And so you obviously have to take, and you have responsibilities that you still have to do, but why not try and do some new and different things? And knowing that it's okay to come to a life coach, for example, to get the help. Maybe you've never even known that a life coach existed, but knowing that you can go to Shirley, for example, if you have some health and wellness goals, or you can go to Carlise because she can help you with your spiritual goals. What are some with the spiritual areas of your life? What are some things? Because some people are broken, if you will, from childhood experiences. We talked about adverse childhood experiences in the past and some of the pain that people experienced in growing up that unfortunately moved with them as they aged. And so dealing with those things, going to a person, you're not a therapist, I'm gonna put that out there again, but you're a listener. You're someone who can help people move, navigate. But let's talk about people who are not motivated. There are people who are just not motivated to change in their life. How do you help those people to get going, get started? And that's for Ivy.
There's no perfect person. We all have encountered something. Whether you're in denial of it, not ready to face it, not sure we want to face it. We all have gone through something. But to do things that you're used to doing that was maybe a norm. And then when this pandemic hit, you realize that this really was not normal for me to be doing this. Why am I doing this? I identify those things as triggers. What trigger you to do certain things that you do? And it really causes people to really think. And I sometimes make that as an assignment because you may not know the answer right then. So when we're speaking every week on a 90-day plan, that's one of your assignments. Normally, when you have a conversation with someone, that conversation doesn't really register at the time because you're doing so much talking or you're probably doing something else while you're talking to that person. But the minute you get off of that call or this live, whatever it may be, that conversation is going to come to you. It's literally going to come to you. And you're going to start processing everything that was said. That's when you're going to start to reminisce in, why did I? What did I? How do I? That's how I put the evaluations out there. And then take it back to if it is something childhood, if it's something that was past childhood, what is the trigger that makes you feel a certain type of way when you get there, and how do we fix it? But the first thing is identifying it. You have to, everything has an identification to it. Just like there's always an answer to the why, there is an answer to the why.
You know, my pastor used to say, you'll get it in the parking lot. When you were saying that, it made me think of that. You know, sometimes you don't get it at that moment. Then you have that aha moment when you leave that space and go and go somewhere. Shirley, did you have anything to add to that? You're muted.
I don't know how that happened. Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Okay. So the question.
Let me just tell you, our behind the scenes expert will mute us sometimes, and we're just sitting there. So that's Tyrone's fault.
Hey, I was shuffling papers, so I understand. We gotta have a good transmission here. So as I understand the question, how do you motivate others or motivate yourself? What was the question again?
Just there are people who are just not motivated. How do you get people motivated to start making changes or setting goals?
Right. Well, motivation, I believe motivation comes from within the person. It is hard for me as a person directing a staff in the past. It was hard for me to necessarily motivate individuals. I mean, there are different things that can serve as those trigger points that can get you started in a certain way, but really there has to be absolute buy-in from the individual in order for motivation to be sustainable. So I can dangle carrots, we know, so say for instance, a person comes to me as an example in the HR field, not here, but I'm just going to use this, and they want to make more money. Well, what is your motivation for that? And how do we get there? And necessarily dangling a carrot of more money may not last, because we know money is one of those things that once you achieve that increase, it lasts for about 21 days or so. And then, you settle into the new amount of money and you just kind of get used to it. So what I'm saying is motivation has to come from within. It is something that I can give you some suggestions. I can say, okay, why do you want to do this, that, and the other? And whatever we decide upon, let's set a goal to get there. So for me, motivation goes back to goal setting and the purpose and the why. Why do you want to be that way? Is it because you want to be like everybody else? Is you want to keep up with the Joneses? What is your reason for wanting to do? In my case, why do you want to lose the weight? Is it for you? Is it for your health? What is the purpose? And then once I know what the purpose is, then we can set up a plan. And that plan, if you buy into it, should be enough to keep you motivated. But I don't know that I've ever been able to truly motivate someone and have it be sustainable over a long period of time. It has to come from within.
Yeah, and I can see that. I'm gonna make a little switch with you, and I'm sorry, I'm having some technical issues. So I think teens can benefit from a life coach as they the process where they want to go. For example, when they graduate from high school, do they want to just get a job? Do they want to go to the military? Go off to college? Have you ever coached any teens in your throughout in your life or in your business?
I have not.
Okay. Shirley, how about you?
I have not coached any teens in my business. However, just in the profession that I come from, of course, I have talked with teens, tried to counsel and give advice and encouragement, direction, guidance in terms of career choices and, working with them in that regard. But I have not, to this date, had a teen as a client. I'm open to it, but I have not.
What about young adults?
I'm sorry?
What about young adults?
Now,
Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
Now, I have had the young adults when they were a little bit lost, undecided with college, issues at home. They don't want to listen to the parents, but they'll listen to a coach. It's funny how people won't listen to the parents, they'll listen to a stranger. So,
and then sometimes I've just had parents will say, I'm sending over TJ and I need you to talk to him. So in an unofficial way, with teens and young adults, I have been involved in that regard, but not as in a client type engagement.
Well, let's get a bit more specific. What about, a little bit more, because I know there are some people want to ask the question, so we'll ask it for them. Does one's health insurance cover your fees for your client? Cover your fees for your clients?
No.
No, sir. It's self-pay.
Okay. And are life coaches required to be certified?
Yes.
And how do they go about doing that? Because it does, as Ms. Turner has said, it sounds very interesting for profession. So how would one become a life coach? Is something that's offered at a college or university? Or
I think I mentioned it earlier. You don't have to be a college student or attend a college or university to become a life coach. You can get with an institute that offers the class, a person that has been in this field for a very long period of time. They can offer certifications for a life coach certification as well.
Ms. Jane?
Yes, I agree totally. We would prefer that everyone, upholding the standards of life coaching. There are a lot of people that carry the title, they call themselves life coaches, but we would prefer that everyone operating in this field as a professional is professionally certified and not just calling yourself that, because we have some rogue coaches, unfortunately, and we don't want that, because that kind of taints the field and the profession that we've chosen at this point in our lives. And so, whereas you do not have to, or you cannot at this time obtain a degree in life coaching. However, let me just say this: the Bureau of Labor Statistics did have even though they don't have it as a job classification, it is listed in their journal as a profession, and a profession that one can work in and be satisfied and be able to provide income for their family. So I thought that was very interesting. So if we have people who are saying, well, if you don't have to go, get the degree and so forth, will it really pay off for me? And the answer is absolutely yes, so long as you have the expertise and the certification to back up, what the work that you're doing. I think it's very, very important that everyone understands that.
Yeah, one of our listeners, I have to just make the statement, what she said is that strategic written plans are critical. A goal without a plan is just a wish.
Absolutely.
Ms. Turner, your mic is up. Is it hot?
Yeah, and there was another one posted. It went away from Jamila. It says something about it being family. Tyrone, can you put that back up? Because I can't see it. I wanted to make sure that we are responsive to our.
Yeah, it said some of the goals may be more family oriented and spending time to improve society. And I think she was referring to when we asked a question about near retirement.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yes,
I wanted to make sure, and thank our listeners for posting your comments and asking questions, because that's what it's all about. It really was not about me tonight. I know it may have seemed that way, but it really was not about me. I know that I retired, but I also had some friends who retired, former colleagues as well who retired, and I promise I know they're listening. So I promise it was not about you either. I wasn't pointing fingers at anybody.
Sure you wouldn't. Yeah.
But Dr. Kane and I started this show because we really, as he laughs about it or has talked often about it, that a large percentage of his patient population are aging adults. And so we like to, for the entire month of November, we devoted it to young people. And so we try to make sure that we discuss every aspect of one's life to make sure that, so that we can help people understand that no matter what area or what stage you are in life, the topics that we talk about, we want you to think, like, where do I fit in, or where does this topic fit into my life? How can I benefit from it? So that's why we felt it was important to talk about, really 2022, what are you going to do? And we hope that from tonight's discussion that our listeners may have gotten some insight from Shirley James, also known as Transformation Shirley, and Carlise Charlotte, because they are two life coaches, as outlined, who can really help us really listen and see where are we in the space or place in our life now, and how can you benefit from their services. Carlise, for example, says that her area of expertise is in the spiritual aspect and really helping you from within. And Shirley is going to help you lose 20 pounds. She doesn't know it, but she is. No, I'm teasing. But Shirley focuses on health and wellness, for example. And they both said there are many other colleagues that focus on persons who might be dealing with some family issues, some relationship issues. And so their services, there are other people who they may be able to refer you to. So we are going to give them a chance. Dr. Kane, if you didn't have any more questions, we're gonna wrap up the show, but we, before ending the show, like to ask each of our guests to give us a final thought. So Carlise, I'm gonna give you the floor now. Dr.
Let me
Kane,
ask.
you have a question?
Let me ask them to do one other thing while they're giving up their final thoughts. That is, give out any information so that we can put it in the chat box and or on the website for people that want to contact you guys. Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay. You know, you don't have to be great, but you have to get started in order to be great. I am looking forward to servicing Jacksonville and any other state for anyone that is in need of life coaching. My website is breakthroughs.life. Breakthroughs.life. My email address is info@breakthroughs.life. I am also an author of a self-published book. It's called Breakthrough, Faith-Based Book of Affirmation on How to Find Your Purpose. That book was released in July. Also, I have a workshop that starts January 11th, an 8-week course. The course is $75, and it is Breakthrough Life Class on Finding Your Purpose. The class will be virtual. I invite you to attend because everyone needs to start from somewhere in order to be great.
Thank you.
And is it an S on? I was looking at your fabulous picture behind you. So there's an S on Breakthrough, right?
This is Breakthroughs. This is the business name, but the book has no S. Breakthrough.
Okay.
Yes.
And the
Where is it
website
available, on Amazon, or how do you get the book?
The book is on Amazon, and the book is also on the website. The book is downloadable ebook on Amazon and downloadable PDF on the website. And you can register for the class on the website as well, on breakthroughs.life.
Okay, thank you.
is
And
James.
Shirley?
Yes. So my final thought would be just focusing on the definition of insanity, continuing to do the same thing and expecting a different result. So the topic tonight was 2022, what are you going to do? So for me, that is a time of reflection. It's a time of being introspective. What do I want to do in 2022, and how is it going to be different from the previous years? So we talked about goal setting, we talked about mindset, we talked about all of the things necessary, not going to rehearse it, just to get you where you want to be. And that's the part that a life coach can play for you. I am Shirley James, also known as Transformation Shirley. The easiest way to reach me right now, as my website is still under construction, is to just email me at transformyourself90@gmail.com. Or you can simply just do that. You can pick up the phone and call me, but just email me and I will get right back with you. We'll talk about the services that we offer. We'll talk about pricing and see if we can have a meaningful relationship, as I would love to work with you and help to transform your life from the inside out.
And that's transform90.
Yes, transformyourself90@gmail.com.
Okay, Tyrone, put the 90 behind yourself, so we can make sure we get the our listeners. There we go. And Miss James, the other thing is, when your website is up and running, please let us know so we can also list it on our website, as we will be doing Ms. Carlise listing hers as well. Ms. Turner?
Dr. Kane, did you have any final thoughts as we end the 2021, a year unlike any other, and think about beginning the new year?
I guess I wish I could say something very profound and prophetic, but I can't. But what I will ask our listeners to do is, first and foremost, enjoy life. Some of us do need help in terms of how to transform ourselves, if that be the case, and but also reach back and help transform others as you move forward in the year 2022. I'm really looking forward to 2022, mainly because that's another year for me. It means it means you know, people say I have some of my patients say, Dr. Kane, this hell getting old. I say, yeah, but if you ain't getting old, that means you're dead. So enjoy getting old. So with everyone, I really appreciate you guys coming on this evening and sharing some light, some insight on life transformations. And we would greatly appreciate at some point, we will have you guys back again to reiterate what you guys discussed this evening.
I'm open to it.
Look forward to it.
Thank you,
Thank you
Dr.
for the
Kane.
opportunity.
Thank you, Shirley and Carlise, and to our listeners. You know, we laughed and we joked, but in all seriousness, 2021 again was like no other. It was a year that some people started out and they're no longer here anymore. And so through, if you don't remember anything, think of the fact that thank God that you're still here. And also, as Dr. Kane says, reach out to other people because their loved ones may not be here with them. And so to have that support, encourage them to consider a life coach because life changed for them. And a life coach may help them find that new, help them create that new space or place in their life. And so to all of you, thank you for listening to pauseforthetruth.com. Make sure that you tune in next week because we will be here regardless of whether or not it's a holiday, as you can see, and thanks to our guests for coming off of their holidays and joining us tonight. But know that we're already planning for a great show next week on Pause for the Truth because we are here to tell you what's really going on and why. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.